Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Griffin, the Senior Services Coordinator here at the library. Thank you so much for coming out tonight for our program, Planning for Care as You Age, presented by Elderwerks. Barbara Rosenberg is here with us, and we're excited to have her. I'll let her talk a little bit more about what she does here in just a minute. If you need the bathroom, it's just right out this direction on your left. Also, if you're watching from home and you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A or you can put it in the chat, and we'll make sure to ask Barbara for you. If you could hold your questions to the end, that would be preferable. That way we can get you mic'd so everyone in the room and at home can hear. Thank you, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Can everybody hear me? I think I've got everything on. I wanted to thank Schaumburg Public Library, Jen, Dan, for your incredible hospitality and kindness and all that you do for our seniors. It's just heartwarming that the library of our youth, and certainly to now, look what it looks like. And I asked when the latest restoration, renovation was of this library, 2023. I understand they did a lot of work to it, so very honored to be in this room and to be here. Barbara Rosenberg with Elderwerks Educational Services. I'm a senior advisor. And to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm in the senior living venue nearly 40 years. I'm going to be 68 myself, so I'm aging into what I do for a living. Started out opening the first retirement community in Chicago, the Breakers at Edgewater Beach, where the Edgewater Beach Hotel used to stand. For those of you that may have remembered the boardwalk back in the day, that hotel sadly came down. The land stayed empty, and Jim Klutznick, whose father was Secretary of Commerce under Carter, built the town of Park Forest, built Oakbrook, Copley Plaza, Water Tower, Old Orchard. They were the builders of one of the first retirement communities in Chicago. And I was honored to be a sales director with them for inside of 23 years, along with Brookdale Senior Living. So I worked in the buildings, and then 9 years ago joined Elderwerks. And so we'll get to our slides, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of that, and thank you so much for coming. So Elderwerks is a not-for-profit, 501c3, and the beauty of our organization is that we are funded by grants, donations, and our placements in senior living communities, which we will talk about. We help anybody. There is no bad question. We will help anybody in need, anyone that is in need of Medicaid, anyone that is food impoverished, anyone that is sleeping in a church and has nowhere to go. We will help anyone. Event sponsorships, donors, grants, senior community support, and we just are advocates. We're advocates for older adults, and we're advocates for the adult children and family members that just don't know what to do. We provide older adults, seniors, and families complimentary information. So our referrals, everything we do when you make a phone call to us, there is no cost to you. It is we are a free service to the public, which is why I'm so honored to be presenting at a public library. So everyone's lives are, everyone's got a different story. Does anyone in the room here still have parents? Okay, there's some that still have parents. Does anyone have aging brothers and sisters that might be older? Does anyone have anyone in the family that never married, has no children, and you're concerned about maybe their well-being? There's so many stories of people that are in need, and we help you figure out the strategies and the resources and the time that it takes to help make decisions. And, to think about what you want for your future. What do you want if you cannot make your own decisions? Who do you trust in your life to become those powers of attorney? And we'll talk about those few things. And to discuss these things, it's so hard because it's sort of the God forbid book. We say, put it together, make the decisions, go to an attorney, have things drawn up appropriately. And if you look at your affairs each year, it will help you. And it's actually, we find once people do it, it's a bit of a relief. We get phone calls from people that don't know anything about their parent, their aunt, their uncle, whoever it is. They don't know about their affairs. And oh no, and I'm not set up, and what am I gonna do? And so we're helping educate the adult children, the friends, the niece, the nephew, for what they're to do as well. So it works, in two directions. It's not just the senior. So for planning for care as you age, you're going to your physician, we hope, every year, your dentist, if you need, mental health assistance, therapist, anything to really look at your health, your heart condition, your weight, your A1C, all the things that everybody does every year to get themselves and to stay healthy and do the best that you can. And drink a lot of water, because nobody drinks enough water, correct? Assessing finances, budgeting, and creating a long-term financial plan. Those are, three big phrases in one line. And the issue is that it's not going to go away. The senior living and health care model of today, we're looking at $150,000 to $200,000 a year for care. That's what's just starting to happen in this country. And so be it different kinds of long-term care insurance or life insurance that has a conversion to cash or a death benefit. So there's different products out there. The old-fashioned products are no more. The lifetime policies, a lot of these Unum, John Hancock, CNA, a lot of them went out of business because there were so many people that got dementia. The claims were huge, and this is what happened to a lot of these companies. So, planning your budget, looking at your finances, and do it while you can. Everything is, do it while you can. It's like, you're looking at your home, you say, oh, I have so much stuff in the closets. We only use the living room and the kitchen, and we sleep in the bedroom, but there's 3 other bedrooms. So, doing that kind of planning too. Your advance directives, your powers of attorney for property and health care, will and trust. I'm not going to advise on anything specific legally, but those are some of the first questions that we ask, say, a niece who's concerned about an uncle and an aunt. Do you have the power of attorney to make health care decisions for that couple, those relatives of yours? Because only with those powers, if you declare them indecisional for any reason, then you're able to exercise those powers. So, and the power of attorney for property and health care, those aren't the ones that are done if, God forbid, you're in the hospital and they have you sign something. That's a Band-Aid for being in the hospital. So some people say, oh, we did our powers of attorney in the hospital. Well, that's not it. There's resources in the Elderwerks directory. You can call me for legal to get those things drawn up. If funds are tight, we send people to Tight Ship. There's other places that we send people to get some of those affairs done. Some very generous places. The senior care options and housing needs. Sometimes I see people sometimes in their 60s, 70s, they're looking at senior living, they're out shopping, they just want to see what's out there. And maybe as they're making their plan, they're going to want to include a specific community. I'd like to be here if, God forbid anything happens, or if you have to make a decision with me. Again, regular checkups with your physician, checking in with your legal team, your insurance team, anyone that you may use for your public accounting and your taxes, and making sure that you have all your benefits there. The physically and mentally active piece is just, we're pounded in our society about exercising and eating healthy and drinking a lot of water. One of the things that I would add to this too is to make sure that you're engaged. Make sure that you are engaged, that you have friends, that you have social circles, that you're learning something new, that you're playing a canasta or mahjong or poker. Like you're doing things that are engaging yourself with other people. The new studies are showing that the brain, that socialization is just very key. And it's not being alone going to a movie, so you're social, you're getting yourself out. It's not being alone going to sitting in a library. It's being engaged with other people. And so that's really important, in addition to the physically and mentally active piece. Planning allows you to make informed decisions, and your wishes are respected. And so, you just never want to make anyone have to look for anything. And that's what's so important. And by the way, any of your affairs, your powers of attorney, health care, your will, your trust, everything should be where someone knows about it, or 2 or 3 people know about it. It should not be in a safe deposit box or in a safe in your house. It needs to be in a cabinet that somebody could get to. So now we're on to senior living options. How many people in the room know people that have moved to retirement communities over the course of the years? Do you know people that have moved? Okay. I asked the question because the new generations of seniors, parents, aunts, uncles, there were nursing homes, the old nursing homes. That was kind of a thing, even in the 80s. Oh, I remember my mother was in a nursing home, my aunt was in a nursing home. I would never, I don't want that. Today's seniors, who sometimes are my clients, they were in their 40s when they came to see me at Lincolnwood Place or at Brookdale or at what, and now they're 85. That's how long I'm doing it. So now they're the senior. But they remember their mother or their relative living in one of the communities. So it's very cool right now, because when we get an inquiry, they'll say, my mom already lived at Brookdale Hawthorne Lakes. I won't feel totally comfortable going there. So can we look at other options? That's great. But that's really neat that you have that memory from the 1980s and the 1990s that your family member were in there. So for retirement communities can be defined as pretty much having your own condo apartment, but there's more outside the door. Dining options, housekeeper's going to show up, all the heat, the air, the cable, the parking if it's outside, sometimes indoor there's a little charge, the classes, the programs, the activities, transportation to the grocery, to a million shopping places, doctor appointments within 10 miles. So retirement communities or independent living are kind of the basis to moving into senior living. And that's for someone that they're done with the house, or they're done with the condo, or the townhouse has too many stairs. But cognitively and physically, they're good. But, they just, that client is looking for some socialization, and they're tired of cooking. And that's sort of the thing. A lot of the communities have gone into very flexible dining, which is nice. And so, there's just a lot of flexibility in retirement living. The independent living, the IL, independent living and retirement living, they can kind of dovetail together. Because in retirement living, you also have the 55 and olders, communities that are just 55 and older, and maybe there's some socialization, but there's no meals. It's just, and there's not a lot of those in Illinois. It's a product called Avador. They're in Evanston, they're in Glenview, Everly in Vernon Hills. Not a ton of 55 and older it's not so indigenous to this area, but they do exist. There's one in Niles, Legacy Crossing. So we have a lot of partners, and it's just a way to live amongst your own age people, have some socialization, and so forth. You hear about the Del Webbs of the world, some of the communities with all ranch homes. You can consider that active adult living, and those are just simply homes that you purchase, and there's a clubhouse. Getting into assisted living is pretty much take the independent living and add certified nurse assistants, CNAs, LPN, licensed practical nurse, add the nursing staff to the team. So you live your life, everything's included that I already mentioned, but you need help with a shower, or you need help getting dressed, or you need escorts to the dining room. It's getting harder for you to really get around. So they assess your needs and add that on to the rent. The rent usually will include more housekeeping. It might include a third meal, a couple little add-ons, but the floor is staffed 24 hours. There's always some sort of a CNA on the floor, a nurse. Some of the communities, the nurses go home at 11 at night, they're on call. They're back at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so the CNAs are doing checks into the apartments where necessary. Assisted living residents go into independent living. Sometimes they'll eat in the independent living dining room. They'll attend the independent living activities. You know, but the beauty of assisted living is there's on-call care. So if you're living in assisted living and you press the button, you may have to wait, but someone's going to come. If you're in independent living and you pull a cord, it could be a maintenance guy, it could be someone from the front desk, it could be the manager on duty. There is no nursing staff in independent living. And they don't come running from the other parts of the building. So you can live in independent living and receive care and predetermine what that is and pay an agency. But for assisted living, it's the safest option for someone that regularly needs care. When we get into memory care and Alzheimer's, there's a little bit of a fine line between the green and the purple because the license is assisted living. It's interpreted based on an assessment by a nurse. So some people will say, you know, my mom's she's a little forgetful here and there, but I don't think she needs memory care. I want my mom in assisted living. Well, it's not her decision or my decision. It's up to a nurse to see that that person is safe, that that person's not going to, the word elopement, which is to wander, that that's not going to happen, that the person's not going to need a lot of directing. Redirection, a lot of redirection really is more for memory care. So it's a little bit of a fine line because you might have somebody that's got just a little bit of pleasant memory loss and they can live in assisted living. But sometimes the memory care support is just so much greater. Some of the communities have memory care support where a resident has full run of the building. They still know where they are, they can get in the elevator, they can go down. And so those are called neighborhoods. And then there's some that need to be in a more secured place, but they can walk and walk and walk and go to the courtyards. And the way these communities are designed, it's incredible. I mean, they're like, the whole place is like a ranch home. And you could just walk and go, and there's staff, and you know, it's pretty incredible. Some of these, between the independent living, assisted living, and memory care, there are standalone communities that have all of it on the same campus. Encore Village Schaumburg has all of it on the same campus. Some have just memory care, nothing else. Some have assisted living and memory care, and this is where Elderwerks comes in, because in the back of that book I gave you, you'll see all these 224 and 800 numbers that come to me or an advisor, because you'll say, you know, I really want my mom at that Oak Hill place on my corner, but they find out that it's just an independent community and they need more care, and so we define what each of the communities are. Right now, there is no new construction. What's built is built. There's not a lot going on in terms of the marketplace. Private equity owns a lot of these. The occupancies are going up, but the way the market is right now, the state of affairs in our government right now with tax credits and these kinds of things to build these communities, you know, what's out there is out there right now. So the last, and by the way, independent living, assisted living, memory care, all rental. It's all rental. It's a 30 or 60-day notice. Bye, this isn't working for us. Not happy here. Doesn't usually happen, but you're in a lease. You're not signing your whole life away or putting down large amounts of money. You are paying a one-time community fee. Could be $3,000, could be $5,000, could be $12,000. They're usually non-refundable. It's the cost of moving in and moving out. If you rent an apartment right now, you can't get out of your lease anymore. Nobody's subleasing. You're stuck with the lease and a security deposit. In senior living, you can leave. So that can be very expensive for an operation. And that's why they have non-refundable move-in, move-out fees. Continuing Care Retirement Community, CCRC. That's in its own category. And what that is independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. It's all on one campus. But when you come into a CCRC, you have to be pretty healthy. You can't have a lot wrong with you. They're looking at complex diabetes, they're looking at Parkinson's, they're looking at dementia. They're doing a full physical because you're buying in to the community, putting a large sum of money down and paying monthly for your meals and your housekeeping, but it's for your life. So they're wanting to look at a real healthy person, so that endowment that you're buying in with isn't going to get eaten up so fast. And so, because you move through the process. So the V in Glenview, Monarch's Landing, the Mather in Evanston, Sedgebrook in Lincolnshire. These are all examples. The Moorings Arlington Heights. Those are examples of CCRC retirement communities. And they're really like insurance policies. But the deal is you got to go when you're healthy. So it would be that 70, 75-year-old or real healthy 80-year-old that's in the house, and they're not, instead of buying the condo, they're buying into a CCRC. You really have to do your homework. In the state of Illinois, and you're not told this on these tours, which is, a lot of the sales directors call me on the phone and say, did you tell the client about XYZ rule? Or did you tell the client? I go, I sure did. Because Illinois has no statute for return of money. So if you are living in a community, and God forbid you pass away, your heir passes away, you will not see your buy-in money. Usually it's you get 90% back or 80% back when you move out, when they resell the unit. So that in Illinois there's no statute for return of funds in a continuing care retirement community. So you're buying in, say, at $300,000, you're paying $6,000 or $7,000 a month for the meals, the housekeeping. Can you hear me? Yeah. And so that $300,000, okay, and the percentage you get back, you won't get it back until they resell the unit. And you do not own it. It is not real estate. There's no taxes involved with any of it. It's just the cost of buying into continuing care. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is if you're familiar with Friendship Village. So Friendship Village, sadly, went bankrupt. The ownership did a terrible thing. And a lot of these long-time working, fabulous, pilots, insurance people, doctors, put $300,000, $400,000 down, $200,000 down, and most of them lost their buy-in. And an owner came in from the East Coast. He owns 12 communities in the country, and he turned the whole thing around and he made it a rental. And so Encore Village, our partner of mine, I place a lot of people in the independent living, assisted living, memory care. So they're trying to make up for all these people that lost their money by not giving them steep rent increases. They're going to get into some kind of a Medicaid program for apartments. So they're really working hard over there. I don't know if you know anyone that lives there, but Avi Sat and his team are, they're doing great stuff. So just want to mention that. The other thing, it's interesting that did not make it to the slides, is supportive living. Supportive living is like independent living. It's pretty much what it is, only it's Medicaid. So if you don't have money to move into senior living, which could be $3,000, $4,000 a month, it could be $12,000 to $20,000 a month, depending on care, you can give your Social Security to a supportive living community and be given $120, $150 a month in spending money, but your life's paid for. Your apartment, your meals, your housekeeping, your class, it's part of Medicaid. But if your health really declines, you need to go to a skilled nursing facility under Medicaid because they can't manage skilled care. So supportive living did not make it into the slides, so I'm glad I mentioned that. Heritage Woods, Victory Center, Oak Hill. So those are some of the names of some of them. Again, not as many tax credits, they're out there. Encore Village is trying to reserve a group of their apartments to become supportive living, really to try to help those residents that lost their buy-in. Group homes, definitely not a big thing in Illinois. Group homes would be literally a house, bedrooms, people living in those bedrooms. It could be like the Veterans Administration has a program. It's a foster program. They will train the homeowner to be a caregiver. Those people then live in the various bedrooms, and they get help with the shower, getting dressed, their meals. It's a really, we need more of them, because you can really cut the cost down. We need more group living in the state of Illinois. It's a constant source of discussion in our professional groups, continuity of care. We talk a lot about it and the future of senior living. Homeowner in Vernon Hills, Illinois, give you an example, Lake County just got their first one. Guy couldn't pay his mortgage anymore. He had his daughter living there, divorced, a bunch of bedrooms, was going to go to the bank. VA came to him and said, you want to become a foster house? He's got 3 veterans in there. They did tub cuts, they put an elevator on the stair, they're cooking meals, they train them as caregivers, and each vet pays that homeowner $3,000 a month. So they're getting $9 grand for these 3 bedrooms, and his guy can stay in his house, and he's 75 years old. So, with a 40-some-odd-year-old daughter with children. So, group homes needs to happen a little bit more here. A company called Shepherd Premier, great company. They buy physical homes in neighborhoods, and they turn them into assisted living and mild memory care. Respite care is another thing that's going to become bigger and bigger, because Medicare and hospital stays, it's just changing. Medicare is not keeping people in hospitals very long. Medicare is not admitting people fully. Medicare is putting people on observation, and you think your parent's going to go or you're going to go to rehab. It's like, no, sorry. Oh, we had no movement, so we had no light. On Zoom, no worries. Our lights just went out because they timed out. I hope I'm glowing. The power of the power. In terms of respite, we're getting more calls. Like, my mom's getting booted out of Northwestern McHenry or out of St. Lexi or any of these. What am I going to do? I'm like, okay, I can hook you up with an assisted living community, and she can go there. You're on private pay, but if she's not ready to go home, you can go there for 30 days and see how she does. And sometimes people don't leave, and they sign a lease and they stay. But respite care is short-term care. There are some people that have to stay in the nursing home. They require a feeding tube, they require a ventilator, they have wounds that are very advanced. Some people respite in skilled care. It's $400 to $600 a day, but there are some people that do that. Skilled nursing facility. Skilled nursing is the portal for rehab. It is the portal for people that have no money and need to live on Medicaid, that need care. And so for skilled nursing, one of the things that happens with our organization is people will call in a panic from the hospital. Oh no, they gave me a list of 10 places. I don't know what to do. It's, go to Medicare.gov, look at their rating, look at their quality of care, and ask us if we have any reports on these places. They don't fund us. We don't tour them regularly, but boy, we get feedback. And you can't always look at 1 star, which is not good, or 2 stars, not good. You got to go to the place. You got to meet the administrator, the nursing staff, so forth and so on. So skilled nursing, bless your heart, skilled nursing, gets a bad rap, but skilled nursing under Medicaid can be a gift. But any of these places are only as good as the family that comes, or representative, or friends. I don't care if you're on Medicaid or if you're paying $15,000 a month in a senior living community. You got to go, and you got to have care plans, and you've got to know the team. Hospice and palliative care. So the umbrella is palliative care. It's like a little umbrella. Hospice is a little piece of it. Hospice is covered under Medicare. It's sometimes the best kept secret under Medicare. You got to qualify. It doesn't, the old days it was, oh, I'm not going on hospice, she's not dying. It's not really what it is anymore. If someone has a lot of chronic conditions and they're, or they're losing a lot of weight and they don't know to eat, hospice is really valuable, because that's a clinician coming in 3-4 days a week, doing clinicals, checking on you, help with the bath, with the shower. We see patients that, or become patients, residents in senior living that have to go on hospice because they are going to qualify. So hospice comes into the community, and they're a big pair of hands for a team in assisted living and memory care as people age in place. Hospice can also take place in the home. It does not replace a caregiver. Caregiver is $30 to $40 an hour with a caregiver. Hospice comes and goes. Palliative care is usually a day a week. There's not as much palliative care going on because some of these clients are just too far advanced. You pay a little bit for palliative care, but sometimes it's just maybe a client just needs that visiting nurse. It's kind of a big slide and a lot of information. So again, I got into more on my own with retirement living, houses or condos built for seniors 55 plus, and offering a variety of activity programs, wellness centers, maintenance-free living. On the wellness center piece for retirement living, what's really nice is that the days of independent living, it's kind of over. You've got to have some health care component. So some of the independent living communities, the Grand at Twin Lakes, for example, Palatine. It's an example, that was the old Indigo Hotel. That's a senior living community, but what they did was they aligned with a home care company that stays in the building. And you can pay another $20, $30 a month for on-call service if you need a check-in or a bathroom run or something in the night. But there are people that live in independent living that can, that can get a little bit of care. And so a lot of these communities are putting in full wellness centers, different rotating physicians, podiatrist, some have a visiting dentist. So we're starting to see a little more medical come into independent living. And again, obviously it's maintenance free. And those that love their homes and love their gardens, the raised beds, there's a lot of participation and a lot of camaraderie in senior living. And so I look at maintenance free living, I think about all the people that say, what am I going to do about my yard? What am I going to do about, and so there's opportunities. Again, these are slides that are a little redundant as I went over each of the areas on that other colored slide. I'm just curious at this point, and I can ask, and any question you might have, I will repeat, especially for the Zoom. So far, has anyone got any questions about any of this yet? You're good? Okay, that makes me feel good. Okay. Again, there's more bullet points about group homes. And where you see at the bottom, started in the West Coast, it was called a boarding care or residential care home. They're really all over the country. And it's a very, very interesting concept. And they range anywhere from a lot of retrofitted old-fashioned nursing homes that had gone out of business to single-family homes in neighborhoods. And so you can see the kinds of things that can happen in a group home. The other thing, I had made some referrals today to somebody, and I said, I think you're going to like, this Shepherd community, because you're going to walk in and you're not going to see the days of nurses stations. The culture's changed, the design has changed, and so I don't want my mother to see a nursing station. I don't want to see a med cart. And so sometimes in the group homes, it's kind of in the kitchen, and you don't see it, and so sometimes that's really palatable for people. Again, I did all my defining, but here it's all written out for, what is assisted living. It's really important, and you see the word ADL, activities of daily living, that is an ADL. And within the assisted living venue, you have people that can pay privately, people that have long-term care insurance policies. those long-term care insurance carriers are looking to see that that person needs help with the shower, getting dressed, touching services. You know, they're looking to see that you need those things. Those things are documented. The long-term care insurance policies have 30, 60, 90-day waiting periods where you are paying privately, and then they'll kick in once they start seeing the bill, and that you're getting coverage with ADLs, bathing, dressing, meal preparation, that kind of thing. When to consider assisted living. American Health Care Association, National Center for Assisted Living reports 1 million adults living in assisted living right now. Good balance for people needing assistance throughout the day. The care is not intensive. Like I said, pretend it's independent living with the nurses on the floor. Some people just say, you know what, I just want to know they're there. I don't need a lot. And so they're paying kind of the minimum or the level 1 care. But they're either kids live out of town, or I'm worried about my diabetes. I'm worried something could happen to my blood sugar, and so you want to go where you know there's going to be a team. The big thing is the fourth from the bottom. Can the person benefit from assisted living care coordination? So care coordination is executive director, director of nursing, or director of health and wellness, the family. Care coordination is what's going on with this client. So say somebody calls me and says, you know, my mom's been in this community for a month. I haven't seen anyone. I haven't met with anyone. It's not acceptable. So so I say, well, were you offered care plan meetings? I said, well, maybe they mentioned something about that, but I'm not. So this is it. Care coordination keeps all the health in line. Medications need to change, behaviors need to change. Sometimes people will be living in assisted living and kids will pick them up and go to the house on Sunday night, and they'll see stuff that they've never seen before. And then so you have to, those are things that you need to report, you need to know, you need to be aware. And that's all part of care coordination. Hey, we saw this. Does this happen regularly during the week? And also, in the bottom, is your own mental and physical health suffering? I say this for the person that needs assisted living and for the caregiver. Caring for the caregiver is a whole other topic. Could talk about that all night. Mental and physical health suffers on the part of the caregiver. Mental and physical health suffers on the part of the client that really needs more care. And so I point that out. A lot of physicians in this day and age are really pretty great about saying, you know what, I think it's time you just look at other kinds of living options. And so having that relationship with your doctor, is really important, that you have that open dialogue, for your living situation. Sometimes it could be wherever you call home, it could be, you know what, your knees are really giving you trouble. This tri-level house of yours is a problem. Maybe you should get a condo. Maybe you should go get an apartment. Maybe you should go to a 55 and older and be with some people, whatever. So the laundry on the same floor and no steps, it can buy you a lot, but it's not always the answer. But for some people, it is the answer. You get younger seniors that not ready yet. Or they don't want to spend the money until they really start to need things, or they have a long-term care insurance policy. So it's just be in touch, with what you need and what you need as a caregiver, if you are a caregiver. Here's the supportive living facility which they put into these slides. So I'm happy it's here. So again, supportive living, or ASLF, SLF, which these acronyms drive me crazy. Assisted living that accepts Medicaid, but the asterisk is it's not true full assisted living. It's a little help with the shower a few days a week, and maybe some medication management, but it's got to be a person that needs kind of light assisted living. And I'm telling you, these communities, there's Plum Grove supportive living, that's in Algonquin. There's just all the, like I mentioned, the Oak Hill, the Heritage Woods. These residents, you just go in these places, they're just doing so great. And it's a better choice than spending money in some rental. you got to kind of think about it, because some people do not like their, oh, I want my, $2,100, I want my $1,600, my whatever my Social Security is. But, when you have your apartment, your meals, your housekeeping, your life paid for, and you're given a stipend a month, 150, whatever it is, you can go get a manicure, you can go for dinner, you just have to budget it. But, again, peace of mind, peace of mind, peace of mind. That's what this conversation is about today. A lot of it is about peace of mind. Again, and we've gone over a memory care. And memory care is, it's just gotten cost prohibitive. People say, well, isn't that a nursing home? It is not. Memory care is a standalone memory care community that just deals with dementia-related disease, people living with dementia-related diseases. And so, and it's all private pay. So there's no funding, there's no Medicaid. And, just in terms of the costs, you could be in independent living if you're one or two people, for $2,500 to $7,000 a month. Am I on? Can you hear me still? Oh. And assisted living kind of is that $7,000 to $10,000 thing. There's usually a second person fee. The memory care, we're starting to see them $9,000, $10,000 to $20,000 a month. Long-term care insurance, self-funding, that's what goes into helping people pay. Let me just switch on. Okay. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you. So again, here's the CCRC bullets. Did my own talking, but it's good and helpful. And again, the handouts that I had given you have all this on here. The entrance fees vary. So it just depends on the size of the apartment. It depends on how you buy in. You can buy in 90-10, 80-20, meaning 90% will be returned to you when you leave, 10% they keep, 80% would be returned, 20% they keep. They have the right to ask you to move to another phase of the operation while you're living there. So, for example, we had a couple that looked at one of the communities, and they were, after a lot of evaluation, they were turned down because her memory impairment was really advancing. And so that's hard. And maybe if it was 2 years or 3 years ago or a little bit pre-COVID, they may have accepted that couple, but these places are all really filling up, so they're being a little bit more particular. And I encourage everyone, we refer people to continuing care retirement communities, even though they're not even going to fund us for a move-in, because I want people to get an education on what that's about, especially younger, healthier clients, that call us. Sheltered care is an interesting category, and there's not a lot of places that have it here in Illinois. Sheltered care is something that's part of a nursing home. But there are memory care communities that have a sheltered care license. So, for example, I have a client living in assisted living in Crystal Lake. The client can swallow solid foods, but the client needs a teaspoon to sip water. That is an aspiration risk. They don't have the staff to sit with him breakfast, lunch, and dinner to sip his tea, sip his water. It is not within an assisted living license for a person to remain in assisted living that has that need. I found a memory care community in Wheeling that has a sheltered license. It's kind of group living. He's going to be in a shared suite, and they're going to be able to manage the care, which is amazing. Belmont Village, Glenview has a sheltered care license. You can do two-person transfers, so most assisted living is a one-person transfer. You have to be able to stand and pivot. If you start to need a two-person transfer in most assisted living or memory care, you need to get a hospice evaluation, or you need to get a private caregiver in addition. They give you the options. So sheltered care is kind of special because that's just a little extra something where they're allowed to do certain things. And the whole swallow piece to what we do gets really tricky with some clientele because some of it's just plain it's a skilled need. You can't live in sheltered care, assisted living, memory care with a feeding tube. Okay, and there's still plenty of people, you know, when you do your wishes, there's still plenty of people that want any and everything to keep their life going. It's still out there. There's plenty that obviously want, you know, their DNR and, you know, how it all goes, but there's plenty of people that have those. They have religious beliefs, and so we respect that. Again, there's no Medicaid in sheltered care because that's usually with a private pay community. And, you know, the skilled nursing facilities, just high levels of care, very complex wounds. Most wounds that are staged, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, most of them, it's a skilled nursing need and cannot be managed by any nursing and memory care assisted living. Sometimes those wounds improve and they can remain or go back to their facility and they get home health with wound care coming to the place. So the staff, so it's under Medicare, so the staff is not, you know, handling the wound. Skilled nursing, you know, 3 meals a day, activities regulated by the Illinois Department of Public Health. Medicare.gov is, you know, where you're going to look for ratings. Paying for care. So, you know, you've got private pay with personal funds, people that have saved, people that have a substantial portfolio, have worked with their financial planners, help grow money, personal assets. Long-term care insurance, and I touched on that. Again, the days of the lifetime policies, you know, they're cost prohibitive. You know, some of the premiums, you know, started to be $20,000, $30,000 a year. They have, you know, escalation clauses in them. But there are, you know, you've got to be, you know, you've got to be healthy. My husband has on Coumadin for life, just as an example. He's on Coumadin for life, and big athlete, and just has that clotting factor thing. And it happened young, and he was never eligible for long-term care insurance. So real, you know, chronic things like that, that occurs. Reverse mortgages on homes, reverse mortgages, you know, people are still doing them. They need the money. You take the equity out of the house. Senior living, they can't wait for you to sell your house. You need to have the cash. You need to have the money to pay. If you have long-term care insurance, you're paying 30, 60, or 90 days on your own. So there's no waiting for homes to sell. So there are people that take out reverse mortgages. There are people that take out reverse mortgages to just be home with a caregiver, to pay the caregiver. Veterans pension, survivors pension. So on the Veterans Affairs, I wanted to just give out a couple numbers. In veterans, for the VA, there's 2 different kinds of situations with the VA. And I have to find where I put my note on the slides. There's the, you know, aid and attendance for people that are living in their home and need home care. There are benefits under the VA. There are home care agencies that work directly with the VA. Assisting Hands Arlington Heights. You know, we have a list of some great ones. Comfort Keepers, some really good companies that will work with the VA. But for any VA questions, we send people, how many people here are in Cook? How many people are Cook, DuPage? Okay, I have Cook, DuPage, and Lake. I'm gonna just give you some phone numbers. For DuPage, the Veterans Assistance is 630-407-5655. For Cook County, the Veterans Assistance Commission is 312-433-6010. Is anyone in Lake? Okay, and then I like to give out a gentleman by the name of Tom Pizer, P as in Paul, I-Z-U-R. Tom is at 847-487-1212. Ask him how he works. So for home care, it's possible to get hours from an agency. To live in senior living, you have to not be driving a car. You have to need help with the shower, getting dressed. You need to have ADLs that you need help with. And there are categories. So there's a married veteran, there's a single veteran, there's a spouse of a veteran, and it's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,200 a month that would go toward your rent. And they're looking at the bill for 3, 4, 5 months, looking to see that you're getting it, and then retroactive to when you apply, you'll get a check. And so it curtails the large cost if you're a veteran. So thank you for your service, for any of you in this room. Appreciate you so much. But Tom is great. The Veterans Assistance Commission, I ask that you call them for any questions. Medicaid, again, Medicaid does a 5-year look back on spending and assets, so you can't run around and say, oh, I'm going to get, I get my aunt on Medicaid because her memory's going, and she starts giving her money this one. They're going to look. So the 5-year look back on spending for Medicaid. Medicaid would be for a person that just doesn't have the means to move to any kind of senior living, and you would apply for Medicaid. And the skilled nursing communities that we refer, they help you do that. I work with Bellaterra out here a lot, and they help clientele. Again, there's the survivor's pension, and there's the general qualifications, and they're looking back for gifting for the VA 3 years. And so that's important. It's real interesting with this veterans piece. I think about 1985, 84 when I started. Those were the World War IIs. All the World War IIs moving in. Then you had all the Korean War. Then you had all the Vietnam War. Still have some Vietnam War for sure. I'll ask a 38-year-old who's got a parent that needs senior services, what war was your dad in? It's like the first Gulf War. The first Gulf War is a senior now. So it's like, how could, I be working in my 4th war at age 67? But that's the deal, it's we're living in this world, time goes by fast, and thank you for your service, and to anyone in your family. So there's some basic qualifications that are put here. Honorably discharged 90 days of active duty, served a day during war period, must be receiving and paying for care. Current cost of medical care exceeds current income. So they're looking at that. Surviving spouse married to veteran at the time of death, 1 year and not divorced. So that's important. Again, they're looking at $80,000 in assets, excluding the primary home, car, and personal belongings. So you're allowed some things. Again, this is a really nice benefit, believe it or not. Not a lot of veterans look at their benefits. And so between those VACs and Tom Pizer, you can get all your questions answered. But it's wise to know about those. And again, for Medicaid, where it says $30 from Social Security, that's for a skilled nursing home. It's $150 maybe for supportive living when you're turning over your Social Security check. But for skilled nursing, it's $30. And you really can't get Medicaid coverage at home. So, I think we've talked a little bit about Medicaid. As far as Elderwerks is concerned, we do get calls for people that are in this situation. We're never funded for any of our assistance or helping people with, getting to resources to fill out Medicaid applications and so forth. So there's options there, and you can always call our office. So asking for help, decide what you need help with. Think of who might be able to help you with that. Being honest and direct. Lower the expectations and be open to others' needs. And to be grateful for all small acts of help. People want to help you. Communication is really, really important. I think, we're living in a very interesting world right now, and we see parents that are, Jacob, our only child, went to University of Iowa, class of 21. COVID lost half the college, the whole thing. When he went to college out of Stevenson High School, 2017, I had him sign a power of attorney for health care and property. That is what college parents are having to do for children, because we're living in this crazy world. And so, planning, finding those trusted individuals. People say, who do I ask? It's who do you trust? Who do you trust? Who do you trust to be, to act in your best interest, for your power of attorney, for your funds, for your money, for your health, and then who a second person could be. Sometimes people do children, they flip them around, so that's all really important. Any questions? And are there any questions in the chat? We've just gone over so much. Yes, and I'll repeat the question.
So a couple of years ago, opened a policy with State Farm for the life insurance long-term care rider on it. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know my father had Alzheimer's, and my mother just went through the money like it was nothing to take care of it.
Okay, so the question and the comment was that this gentleman's father had Alzheimer's, and he saw his mother go through a lot of funds in order to care for him. He has a State Farm policy that is a life insurance with a conversion for long-term care. It's 1,000,000,000% recommended. It's such a smart thing that you did. How long ago did you purchase that?
A couple of years ago. So it's costing me like $300 a month. So
$300 a month for something like that. That's great. And then what will your benefit be? Do you know if you ever need it?
So it's got they give me a statement every year that tells me if I was to not pay any more, this is what the value is.
Okay. So statements given annually, and if you...
$100,000 it will accumulate. So.
Pardon me, what'd you say?
It accumulates about $100,000 over its life, so I can continue to pay. So.
Okay, up to $100,000? It's actually $100,000 is almost like a year of care. But yes, very smart that you purchased that. Any of those conversion policies, those life insurance policies, you can talk to your insurance person to ask what is out there that's doable for long-term care. Anybody else? Do you have questions in the chat?
No.
Okay. How many people are on the chat? Hi, everybody.
You had 20 people watching from home.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So I guess we were succinct. And the library is going to be sending you an email of information. And for our audience here, thank you all for being up in your homes. It's so amazing to just, the way technology works, just love it. And anyone in here, you're all clear on everything we talked about? It's just so much information. You can call me anytime you want. I answer my phone on nights. I answer my phone on weekends at my cell phone. And if I can't help you, I will direct you to somebody that can. And I just thank you all for your time. And plan, plan, plan. Be happy, be positive, and just take good care of yourselves. That's all we want for you all in the new year.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you all for tuning in to the library program tonight. For those of you who are watching at home and here in person, if you signed up for this program tonight, you will get the recording sent to you, as well as Barbara's slides as well. And I will also send Barbara's information. That way, if you do have questions and you want to reach out to her privately, you can do so. So thanks again, everyone, for coming. Everybody have a good night.